I'm going to be clearing up the air a little bit on what we see right now in the United States of America regarding Marjorie Taylor Greene, or MTG. I think we saw this train wreck coming for a while right now, this poison pill. And I think that the dismissal that President Trump has made of Marjorie Taylor Greene was appropriate. I think it was the right thing to do. I think she is a poison pill that has been put there for a while right now. Nothing but bad news. Lots of dishonesty, lots of deception, and really belongs more on the, if there is any sense of political sides, on the political side of the spectrum that believes in lies, telling other people what to do, open marriages, and so on and so forth. I really would encourage conservative America to push Marjorie Taylor Greene as far away as possible, and what we see happening right now from President Trump. Am I a fanboy? I don't know, okay? Again, it keeps going back to, I know people that have lost children from drug overdoses, and they've worked and have had time to meet directly with President Trump. No one else in social media will spend 5 seconds even mentioning 1 million opioid overdose deaths in the United States of America, mostly young people. They won't mention it. They want to dance around it. They want to pretend to be heroes by talking about the Epstein victims who, last I checked, are alive. As horrible as it was, they're alive. They're not dead. Dead usually trumps alive, regardless of the crime. And no one wants to talk about it. So, yeah, I guess as far as that goes, I'm still rooting for the visibility for the drug epidemic in the United States to rise up. And shame on other people that want it never to get the light of day. So, Marjorie Taylor Greene, as we can show here right now, has been very, very loud about the Epstein files. She's going to bring justice to the victims. Justice to the victims. Good for you, Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, working with Ro Khanna and then working with Tom Massey, the representative from the state of Kentucky. She's now on, CBS Good Morning News. She's being seen as maybe pretty okay by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who, again, just to remind you, her campaign manager is an Indian man, Indian national, who is probably going to be the person filling the Senate, the representative seat of Nancy Pelosi when she steps down. Isn't that interesting how no one wants to talk about that? No one. Nobody. That is the third rail. You can't mention that we have, 5 or 6 Indian nationals right now in the United States Congress. We'll probably soon have 10. I mean, I don't know what the number is. But at some point, it's like your chances of being in the United States Congress, being born in India, is bigger than your chance of being a United States congressperson being a black American born in the United States. Now, I thought we wanted diversity. I thought we wanted opportunity for Americans. But for some reason, you know what? You're up the creek right now if you're in that particular situation. So I'm willing to call that one out. And I think more people left and right should be calling that out. So Marjorie Taylor Greene right now wants all the focus on the Epstein files. I don't know the extent of the Epstein file crime, but I'll tell you what, it does not include 1 million deaths. It's not in the cards. So since it's not at the top of the list, as far as the magnitude of the crime goes, why will she never stop talking about it? She is encouraging more death. She's encouraging more people to remain addicted. She's encouraging more young people to possibly even seek getting into prostitution because they can't get assistance, because that problem can't get the light of day because Marjorie Taylor Greene, along with the rest of the American backstabbers, including the people like Ian Carroll and Candace Owens and the other horrific, flawed human beings, citizen journalists that support putting all the priorities on things which do not impact the most lives. On Houstonic.live, we state very plainly, the most important thing is to keep the most important thing as the most important thing, and anything beyond that is treason. So right now, what's costing the most lives and has cost the most lives is what we put at the top of the list. Everything beyond that is treason. She wants it all to be about Epstein. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene's background is CrossFit. She posted some ridiculous CrossFit video about 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know. I'm not going to judge the form, but her background is with this CrossFit workout method, but it's also has become a franchise of business owners that do this CrossFit workout routine, this methodology. I think there might be a diet associated with it. And the founder is an American man named Greg Glassman. Now, what's crazy is that Marjorie Taylor Greene started causing all this controversy in 2019, and I'm going to review real quickly. And then she was elected into office in the 2020 elections and started to serve her seat in 2021. Odd that she didn't even run in her own district. The representative seat that she started to run for, she changed her mind and ran for a different seat in the state of Georgia, which she was able to do because she's a resident of Georgia, although she doesn't even live in that district. Anyways, as she gets more and more visibility, she's always doing things that create all of this and these little nauseous stumps. They really are quite nauseous. You know, what do you expect when you post a photo of yourself holding an AR-15 and have yourself with your AR-15 superimposed over Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? What do you expect? That's just bad taste. There's ways to say that you're defend the Second Amendment without posting a picture of yourself holding a gun next to people who are against it. Of course that's taunting. And that then looks bad on everyone who's a Second Amendment supporter, as if she does it by design. But she was also a CrossFit. She owned a location, I think, for a while, or as a location manager, which brings into question, has she worked with a man named Greg Glassman, who is a multi-millionaire, probably almost a billionaire, who was the founder of CrossFit and who curiously got kicked out of CrossFit in June of 2020 for posting Floyd 19. So the founder of CrossFit makes all people who have questions about the nature of the death of George Floyd look bad, questioning COVID-19 look bad, and then other CrossFit owners, in particular, this one who's no longer a CrossFit owner, albeit Marjorie Taylor Greene, then she steps up to the plate and continues to make people look bad. It makes you wonder if there's collusion. Well, I don't have the hard evidence, but what I can tell you, though, is sometimes you come up with enough correlation, and when you realize that if you go to the CrossFit page, you'll find nothing but promotions of Dr. Drew, but even more importantly, Dr. Bhattacharya, the current Indian-born director of the National Institutes of Health. You know, that Indian-born director of the National Institutes of Health that can't figure out why life expectancy in the United States is going down.
Scientists need to work on the things that actually are at the top of the minds of the American people. The mission of the NIH is to do research that extends the life expectancy and improves the health of the American people, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Since 2012, the United States has seen no increase in life expectancy, none. And it collapsed during the pandemic, and only recently has it started to come back up to 2019 levels. That is a situation that is a catastrophic failure of the American public health system, and it frankly is also a failure of American scientists to address the key drivers of this enormous chronic disease crisis we're facing.
A director of the National Institutes of Health who doesn't understand the opioid epidemic. A director of the National Institutes of Health from India who doesn't understand that opioids kill mostly young people, that we have 6 times the fatal drug overdose rate that we did 20-something years ago, that doesn't understand the life expectancy went down because of the opioid epidemic. It makes you wonder if we have an Indian national running the NIH in the United States of America who doesn't want to say it because many of the components to make that fentanyl that kills young people comes from India. And that's the person that is promoted day and night by CrossFit. And then, instead of, maybe no one's talking about the opioid epidemic, Marjorie Taylor Greene then goes on to say we should be talking about the Epstein files with another Indian, Ro Khanna, again against the President of the United States of America. So they want to talk about Epstein, they want to talk about pedos, they want to talk about Jews, but somehow none of them have the capability to admit that the largest nation on earth is never spoken of. And the nation that is on track to have the world's largest economy in 10 to 15 years, the nation of India, will never mention it. Isn't that kind of funny? Well, what we know is that a mutual friend of our channel, a Dr. Jonathan Cooey, was invited to multiple CrossFit events. Spare no expense. They paid for the hotel, they paid for the plane, and at those events, Jonathan Cooey 3 times ran into, had cocktails, and shared tacos with Dr. Bhattacharya, who had but one request, and that request was to be nice to Dr. Robert Malone. Dr. Robert Malone, who then, not too long afterwards, Marjorie Taylor Greene, previously of CrossFit, then goes on to have hearings, congressional hearings with Dr. Robert Malone. Now, you won't find a whole lot of one-on-one with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Dr. Bhattacharya other than her spearheading the request to stop medical experimentation, or I would just say medicine experimentation on animals, cats and dogs and whatever. Why? Doesn't that just play right into the fact that they want to no longer use animals for medical experimentation? They want to go straight to humans? Doesn't that just play right in? Again, it's constant. Oh, and I think she's also starting to take a position against the Trump enforcement of immigration. And I wouldn't even be surprised, although I'm getting over my skis a little bit right now, if you'll see that she eventually comes out in favor of continuing to have more and more H-1B visas to India. That would make a lot of sense. And instead of anyone having any balls or any honesty or any integrity or any intellect to actually talk honestly about what's going on with Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's all buried into, well, it's Epstein and, yeah, maybe Trump and her should continue to get along and blah, 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 blah. No, none of it. Just none of it. Now, another weird data point here. Joe Rogan, of all the people to connect, Joe Rogan puts Robert Malone, and again, Robert Malone's biggest supporter is Bhattacharya. Bhattacharya, who's often in the the broken science, CrossFit, Greg Glassman support circles. Robert Malone, supported by Bhattacharya. Robert Malone, of course, is, I guess, very friendly with Marjorie Taylor Greene. All of these anti-American backstabbers masquerading as some sort of newfound conservatives. Joe Rogan puts Robert Malone and Marjorie Taylor Greene together, side by side. Side by side, as these are the people that conservatives Americans really should be listening to. So this was January 3rd, 2022. Joe Rogan leads Move to Get Her, which, of course, I think has tanked. After, wasn't it made by... Was that made by the family of Candace Owens' husband? Did Candace Owens' husband lead Get Her? Was that true? I'll need to dig into that. That would make even more sense, because Candace Owens is another, ex-liberal American backstabber who says that we need to focus everything on Israel, everything on Epstein, and never mention the opioid epidemic and never question why young people are dying, and makes this false claim to actually give a shit about young Americans, but is never willing to talk about the number one reason why many young people are, and even children in some cases, are pulled into child prostitution. We'll never mention it. We'll never mention it. I actually seen her laugh, like, ha, 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 talking about children in Epstein. Ha, 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 it's so funny. I can tell off-color jokes about it. Ha, ha, ha. Either you care about kids, and your reaction is to be angry when children are impacted, or you make funny memes, ha ha ha, and because you actually don't care, or you're talking about something that you don't actually believe. It's one or the other, Candace Owens. It's one or the other. Why do people continue to support Candace Owens, whose actions and whose words encourage horrible things to happen to kids? So let's read this article here. So Joe Rogan's move comes after Twitter banned Marjorie Taylor Greene and Dr. Robert Malone for COVID-19 misinformation. Podcast titan Joe Rogan opened a Getter account Sunday and encouraged 7.8 million Twitter followers to join him on the alternative social media app. Joe Rogan wrote, just in case shit over Twitter ever gets dumber, I'm here now as well. Getter, Gettr, trended on Twitter throughout Sunday afternoon as users reacted to Rogan's tweet about Getter, with many apparently taking his advice and opening an account. Rogan's move to Getter came on the same day that Twitter permanently banned the personal accounts of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican of Georgia, for spreading what social media company deemed COVID-19 misinformation. And then last week, Twitter also banned Dr. Robert Malone days before he appeared on Rogan's podcast to discuss the government response to the COVID-19 pandemic and vaccines. Malone, a contributor to mRNA vaccine technology, we've dug pretty deep on that, of course, also opened a Getter account. So Robert Malone, interesting who Robert Malone has written Substack accounts about. Robert Malone, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene goes on to have hearings in Congress with Robert Malone. Robert Malone, Marjorie Taylor Greene are put together here by Joe Rogan. Robert Malone, Marjorie Taylor Greene have their accounts canceled around the same time by Twitter. Now, does that mean that they're in some collusion just based upon that? Not necessarily. However, though, Robert Malone is bigly supported by the CrossFit personnel, in particular, the person that they love to talk about so much and promote, Gianta Bhattacharya, big time. So if Gianta Bhattacharya is one of his biggest promoters, visibility is CrossFit. CrossFit, also their founder, Greg Glassman, causing all kinds of controversy for anybody with a conservative opinion with Greg Glassman's tweet about Floyd 19. And oh, by the way, on the topic of drug overdoses, George Floyd almost certainly died of a drug overdose. I've seen the videos. He was treated poorly. I'll bet you with proper medication and proper treatment and proper training, George Floyd could have lived. He was mishandled at a time that he was dealing with a drug overdose. It's interesting how that option isn't on the table. Maybe because they would rather have Americans wanting to kill each other over whether or not the cops killed him or whether or not whatever the other alternative was, as opposed to more Americans realizing how bad this drug problem was. It's amazing how several children lost a dad when George Floyd died. I'm not making any comments on his integrity as a character or lack of. I don't know. I don't need to. The point, though, is that it's amazing how every opportunity that gets presented to our nation to have more people become aware of the severity of the drug problem, everything is done and every lie is told to get the fingers and the eyeballs pointing in every other direction. All the time. Even Greg Glassman, a supposed health expert, is taking advantage of the George Floyd thing. Even he is getting eyeballs pointed in the wrong direction, which in turn leads to more deaths, which in turn leads to more child prostitution. Their combined lies lead to death, lead to child prostitution. That is what happens when they lie about why people die. And this horror can all be seen right now because we're all being encouraged to think this or that about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Again, it's so obvious what a pivotal role she plays in getting Americans to think about Epstein and pedophiles and Israel as opposed to India, fentanyl components, larger scale geopolitics, and how the life expectancy of the United States of America has been impacted by the opioid epidemic. She's spending her time showing off her quads and her biceps, doing stupid form monkey bar exercises, wanting Americans to focus on, Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. Again, that is what a traitorous American does. Let's look at some of the other fun articles that have been out there. Of course, there's BuzzFeed News talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Again, promoting her. Look, even having the nuclear radiation sign next to her. CrossFit is finally fed up. So CrossFit kicked her out in 2021. We saw that coming. Remember, this is just to remind you, this is The Guardian. CrossFit CEO Greg Glassman. How appropriate, a Joker face. Look at this. The move comes after a pair of offensive tweets by Greg Glassman. On Saturday, in response to a tweet from the Research Center Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, which stated racism as a public health issue, Glassman tweeted, "It's Floyd 19," in reference to the police killing of George Floyd, whose death had sparked a global protest movement. He went on to say, "Your failed model quarantined us, and now you're going to model a solution to racism, George Floyd's brutal murder." So it's murder. Brutal murder sparked riots nationally. Truth is that there have been a lot of black men in particular who have been killed as part of police brutality. That has happened. In this case, it's how do you cut it though, right? Because if it was understood that he was dealing with a fentanyl overdose at the time, he would still be alive. He wasn't treated properly. So it's mushy. Just the same, he didn't need to die. But instead of raising national awareness of this, no, we can't talk about it. I guess they just needed to kill a few more 100,000 people over the next few years, especially young people, to get that life expectancy to go down. Heaven forbid we talk about it in an intelligent way. Thank you, Greg Glassman, for helping to facilitate the death of so many young Americans. Thank you so much. I hope you have a lot of fun spending all that money of yours. Freaking blood money, you jerk. Okay, this was Marjorie Taylor Greene, injuries caused by COVID-19. You could watch her and her November 13th, 2023 hearing with Dr. Robert Malone. Of course, Dr. Robert Malone. Dr. Robert Malone, who goes all the way back to setting up the IT infrastructure in Windber, Pennsylvania, where the legal counsel was provided by Richard Verma, the man who went on to become ambassador to India for the United States of America. Of course, he worked with Harry Reid. Of course, he helped with the Iran nuclear deal. Of course. Again, everyone, you talk about Umar Abedin, talk about Pakistan, talk about Hillary Clinton all day long, always dancing around the elephant in the room, India, and in that case, Richard Verma. Pretty impressive how hard people go, how far out of the way they go to take the bait that it's all about Israel and never, ever, ever, ever mention India. Good job, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Good job at screwing over your own country. Good job. Of course, I'm being sarcastic right there. So that's all I have in me. Thank you. Take care. God bless.